Hare Krishna. So how is everybody doing? Good? Very good. So, I've been asked to speak on Vaishnav etiquette today. What is the meaning of the word Vaishnava etiquette? Simply it means the way a Vaishnava behaves. The activity, the conduct, that is what establishes the etiquette. The way one must behave, the way one must interact. Now, Vaishnava means, what is the meaning of the word Vaishnava? Vaishnava means devotees of Vishnu. Who is Vishnu? The Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is there any difference between Vishnu and Krishna? No. Only difference is Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead and Vishnu is an expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ete changsha kalapungsha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Sri Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan. Ramadi Murtishu Kala Niyamena Tishthan. Very good. Meaning? Okay. Ram Adi Murtishu. The expansions or manifestations of different incarnations like Lord Ramchandra. Ram, Adi means Lord Ramchandra, etc. Ramchandra and others. Kala Niyamena Tishthan. They are expansions and expansions of Krishna. In this way, Nana Avataram Akorod, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, manifested himself in many, many incarnations. Avataram. Kintu, but Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramo Pumanjo. But Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, the point is, Vaishnava means those who are followers of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, how should they behave? How are they expected to behave? How should a devotee behave? His life is centered around Krishna. That is a devotee. What is the difference between a devotee and others? Meaning those who are involved in materialistic way of life. Karmani nirdahati kintu cha bhakti bhaja. They are involved in karmic reactions. But what does devotional service do? Nirdahati burns out the karmic reactions. So devotees are beyond karmic reactions. In the material platform, everyone is acting and getting the results of his actions. That is simple action-reaction principle. We know in the material law of motion, to every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That applies even in the spiritual context. As you sow, doesn't it say the same thing? As you sow, so shall you reap. As you act, accordingly you'll get the result. So that is materialistic way of life. In the material nature, we act, we get reactions. Good actions or pious activities generate happiness, and sinful activities lead to suffering. Does anything happen by chance in this material nature? Is there anything called accident? No. Everything has a reason behind the happening. Everything has a cause behind the effect. Cause and effect. Behind every effect, there is a cause. And what is the cause? The cause is our previous actions. The way we acted, accordingly, we'll get the reactions. So that is one life. But is the devotee's life like that? What is the difference between a devotee life and that life? Devotee, what's the basic qualification of a devotee? When does one become a devotee? When can we consider that somebody is a devotee? When? When one surrenders unto Krishna. Didn't Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharman parittajya mam ekam sharanam braja. Aham tvang sarva papibhyo mokshaishami. So what is the karmic reaction happening? Why did Krishna mention only papibhyo? Why not punyabhyo? Punyabhyo also. Pap and punya, but we are concerned about pap, because pap leads to suffering. That's why we do not want to suffer. But punya gives us happiness. So that can be tolerable. But actually, when one surrenders unto Krishna, one becomes free from both pap as well as punya. No more pap, no more punya. So that's why he says, karmani nirdahati. All the karmic reactions, dahati means what? Dahan means burn. And dahati means burns out. All the karmic reactions are completely burnt out. So, that is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee. Non-devotees are leading their life with themselves in the center, and devotees are leading their lives with Krishna in the center. And sometimes we are asked the question, what's the distance between material nature and spiritual nature? What's the distance between material nature and spiritual nature? Me and Krishna. When I lead my life with me in the center, that's material. When I lead my life with Krishna in the center, that is spiritual. So we are actually dealing with devotees. We are dealing with the individuals who have offered themselves to Krishna, surrendered themselves to Krishna. And what is the basic initial stage of this devotion? When one surrenders unto Krishna. Surrendering to Krishna, Sharanagati, has 4 aspects. Out of them, 2 is accepting Krishna as my Lord and Master. Goptritte Baran. Krishna is my Lord and Master. And the other one is Krishna will definitely protect me. Abhashya Rokhibe Krishna Vishwash Palan. Rokshishi iti Vishwasho. Goptritte Baranang Tatha. Accepting and the implicit faith that Krishna will protect me. And accepting Krishna as my only Lord and Master. If Krishna is my Lord and Master, doesn't the master give protection to his subordinate? So if Krishna is my Lord and Master, Krishna will protect me. So that confidence, full confidence that Krishna will protect me. And Krishna is my Lord and Master. And the basic, very foundation of spiritual life is Ado. What is Rupa Goswami saying? Ado Shraddha. Ado Shraddha. Shraddha means respect. And a further definition of Shraddha also is that Abashya rakhibe Krishna Vishwas palan. Shraddha shabde Vishwas kahe, Shudrira nishchay. Krishna bhakti koile sarva karma krita hai. The word Shraddha means that Shudrira nishchay Vishwas, the implicit, firm faith, that if I render devotional service, then everything is done. I do not have to do anything else. Therefore, the devotees are considered to be free from all obligations. There are various obligations, various debts we have, like Devarshi, Bhutapta, Nrinang, Pitrinam. Devas, we have debts to the demigods. Rishis, the sages. Bhuta, Apta, other living entities, relatives. Nrinam, and the forefathers, the superiors. But when one takes to devotional service, all those debts are mitigated. Devotees don't have any debt. Meaning, when one renders devotional service, we have to understand that he has become free from all material obligation. Of course, that doesn't mean that a devotee shouldn't take care of his family or other responsibilities. No, a devotee is very responsible. But he does that, he executes those responsibilities with due Krishna consciousness. Anyway, now let us go to this point of Shraddha. Respect towards the superiors. First is beginning, respect towards Krishna. Does it mean that we should only respect Krishna and nobody else? Yeah, it happens. Some people think that I will only worship Krishna and nobody else. But that is Kanishta Adhikari. Archayam eva haraye. They serve, they worship Archaya, they worship Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Haraye. Pujangya Shraddhaye hate. Very respectfully they execute their worship. But natad bhakteshu, channeshu, sabhakta prakrita smitaha. But he doesn't recognize his devotees and he doesn't recognize others. He is considered to be a mundane devotee, materialistic devotee. He is practicing devotional service, that's fine, but his understanding and attitude is materialistic. Meaning he thinks that he is the only devotee and nobody else is a devotee. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is the only devotee. But a second-class devotee, he recognizes devotees. The second-class devotee is Ishware tad adhineshu balisheshu visatsucha premo maitri kripa upekha ja karoti sa madhyama. Madhyamadikar, second-class devotee, is Ishware to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has prem. To other devotees of the Lord, he has maitri, friendship. To the innocent, he has kripa, compassion. And upeksha, to those who are offensive to Krishna, neglect. We don't want to have anything to do with them. So this is a Madhyamadikar situation. And our business is to come to the Madhyamadikar platform. Why? Because Uttamadikari, completely in another world. His mood is Sarva Bhuteshu Japashrit Bhagavad Bhavam Atmanaha. He is seeing that everyone else is a devotee. Only he couldn't become a devotee. Can you imagine the situation? He's saying that everybody else is a devotee. But only he himself couldn't become a devotee. It's not an artificial thing. He feels that way. Therefore, a Uttamadhikari cannot preach. If one thinks that everybody else became a devotee and he only couldn't become a devotee, how is he going to preach to others? Therefore, Prabhupada said that a Uttamadhikari devotee comes down from Uttamadhikar platform to the Madhyamadhikar platform to preach. The Uttamadhikari devotees cannot preach because of this attitude. They are always thinking that everyone else is a pure devotee. Only I couldn't become a devotee. There is a very beautiful verse in that respect. Let me see. Yeah. Banchitoshmi, 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 nasangsaya. Vishya gaura rashe magnam, sparshamopi mang na bhavet. Prabodhananda Saraswati, a very exalted devotee, a very intimate associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is lamenting, Banchitoshmi. Banchitoshmi means I have been deprived. I have been deprived. I have been deprived. The whole world has become inundated by Krishna Prem. Only I couldn't get even a touch of it. That is the mood of a pure devotee. Uttamadhikari devotee. So anyway, it is very important that we are not in that stage. Uttamadhikari devotees cannot stay in normal society. Like the Goswamis of Vrindavan. They're just living in a forest of Vrindavan. Because they can't deal with this material nature. They simply want to be completely absorbed in Krishna Prem. They're constantly absorbed in Krishna love, in their loving exchange with Krishna. Anyway, as I was saying, like our situation is different. Now, if we are left with two options, Kanishtadhikari and Madhyamadhikari, which one should we opt for? Naturally, Madhyamadhikari. That means we have to deal with others. We have to be in a society. We have to deal with others. And when it comes to dealing with others, as you said, there are three considerations. Serving Krishna, dealing with the devotees, and dealing with the innocents. Dealing with innocents means we have to preach to them. They don't have Krishna consciousness, so let us go and give it to them. When you have something very, very precious, and if you are very generous, what do you want to do? Do you want to keep that locked up in your safe? If you have something very precious, and if you are generous, or we can probably give another example, like there is an epidemic, and you see so many people are suffering from a terrible disease. Now, if you know the medicine, if you have the medicine, what will you do? What will you do if you have the medicine and if there is an epidemic? Go out and give it, right? Now that is the situation of this world. There is an epidemic of a terrible disease. What is the name of that disease? Bhava Rog. Bhava Rog. Literal translation, materialistic disease. Materialistic disease means a disease for sense gratification. It's a disease. Like out of disease people suffer. Desire for sense gratification leads to what? Does desire for sense gratification lead to enjoyment? How many of you think that desire for sense gratification leads to enjoyment? No one. Then, desire for sense gratification or indulgence in sense gratification leads to suffering. Suffering. So you're seeing people are suffering. When somebody is afflicted with disease, what happens? When somebody is afflicted with disease, he suffers. And you are seeing somebody is suffering. But sometimes people, although they're suffering, they cannot understand that they're suffering. Do you know when it happens? When someone is drunk. When someone is drunk, although he's suffering, he doesn't realize that he's suffering. Therefore, do you remember sometimes Prabhupada used the expression inebriated? Inebriated. Inebriated means drunk. Inebriated. The materialistic condition is like a drunken condition. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur put it in a very poetic, in a very beautiful in a poetry. The shining bottles charm their eyes and draw their heart's embrace. The slaves of wine can never rise from what we call disgrace. The shining bottles, the bottles of liquor, charm their eyes. The drunkard, what happens? He is charm their eyes and draws their heart's embrace. His heart is running towards that bottle and he wants to embrace it. I think that's what happens to a drunkard here. Most of us don't know what it actually means. But he very beautifully described that. Shining bottles charm their eyes and draw their heart's embrace. And the slaves of wine, the drunkards are the slaves of wine. They have become enslaved by wine. The slaves of wine can never rise from what we call disgrace. They cannot rise from the disgraceful condition. So this is the thing, you see, in the material nature, everybody is suffering, but everybody is thinking that he is going to enjoy. And that state is like a drunkard's condition. Anyway, so for a devotee, it's very important that they deal with each other in an appropriate way, and that is what Vaishnav etiquette is. How the dealing should be? Towards the superiors, respect should rise from the subordinates. The juniors must respect. And is it a one-way traffic? No. The respect should rise from the juniors towards the senior, but affection should flow from senior to junior. It's a reciprocal thing. It's a two-way traffic. We can't expect that our subordinates, our juniors are going to respect us. We demand respect. Offer obeisances. Right? No. Let them spontaneously do that due to our affection for them. That's the loving exchange. So from the senior, affection should flow towards the junior, and respect then naturally will rise from junior to the senior. And among equals, there should be friendship. So we must recognize that the Vaishnava community is a community of lovers. The very basis of Vaishnavism is love. We have love for Krishna. Naturally, when we have love for Krishna, we have love for Krishna's parts and parcels. Prabhupada used to use an expression, you love me, you love my dog. Isn't it? You love me, then you also love what is dear to me, what belongs to me. Of course, we don't love our dogs as such. We don't keep our dogs, but it's an English expression. You love me, love my dogs. You love me, that is, if we say, Krishna, I love you, then Krishna will say, what about my other devotees? Like, you love me, but if you don't love those who love me, then how can I accept your love? So we have to remember that among Krishna's, in the devotee community, we should develop a loving atmosphere. And then only that atmosphere will become so attractive that everybody would like to come and join us. We are inviting people to come, but we must make it a point that when they come here, they should see an atmosphere where they would like to be. And one thing, like you will see in course of time, that philosophy is important, but philosophy doesn't appeal to most of the people. It doesn't sink in with most of the people. Most of the people don't understand the philosophy or are not interested about the philosophy. What they really want to see is a loving exchange. Often we hear people say, well, we went to a temple, but nobody bothered about me. No one came and spoke to me. On the other hand, we also get the reports. Oh, I went to your temple and some devotee was so nice. He took me around and he explained everything. So people appreciate. Sometimes we think that, oh, well, they have come to have the darshan, we shouldn't bother them. Often it happens, but I can tell you in most of the cases you'll find that they would appreciate if somebody comes and speaks to them. So make it a point when somebody comes, you greet them nicely. And so, Prabhupada actually made a standard in the early days. Prabhupada made a standard, whoever would come should get prasad. And you know what prasad was supposed to be given to them? Hot puri, sabji and halwa. And Prabhupada said, make that for 20 people. Keep the dough, puri dough, and have sabji and halwa made, ready there. And when people come, then make fresh puri and serve them. And so, they'll think that, oh, you're getting hot prasad. And then he said, when this 20 people's quota is exhausted, make for another 20. And if there is something left over, then when the devotees will come back in the evening, they will take care of that. So see, this is what Prabhupada wanted, that everybody not only should be treated nicely, but should be given prasad. That actually makes such a big difference. So when people come, when individuals come to our temples, we must make it a consideration that we must make it a point that we should treat them very nicely, give them nice prasad. And if it is not possible to give because so many people, in those early days, maybe 10, 12 people came or 20, 30 people came, but nowadays it may not be possible. But one thing can be done is that Mangalartik sweets and other sweets, we can keep them, and when they come we can give them those prasads. Our Pujari Maharaj is shaking his head. So, and among ourselves, let's have a very, very nice and friendly relationships. Let us avoid any kind of conflict, any kind of unpleasant dealings with each other. Actually, we should remember, this is the age of Kali. And you know what Kali stands for? Exactly. Kali stands for quarrel. What is the Sanskrit word for quarrel? Kalaha. Do you see the link? Kalaha and Kali. Okay, let's go back a little more. Do you know who is Kali's father and mother? Kali's father and mother are anger and envy. Wherever there is envy and anger, then the fire is ignited of quarrel. But a devotee is envy. What is the Sanskrit word for envy? Matsarya. Do you remember the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, the qualification of a devotee has been described? Parama nirmatsaranam satam. A devotee's identity is nirmatsar, non-envious. He has no envy. Mind you, envy is opposite to love. When we love somebody, then we want to accept him and embrace him. But when we develop envy, we cannot tolerate him. Just consider what happens when we are envious. We cannot tolerate that somebody is being recognized, somebody is being glorified, somebody is rewarded. Isn't that the cause of envy? Oh, why him? Why not me? That's the root cause of envy. Why him? Why he is being glorified? I am such a great personality. Is the world so blind that they cannot see my greatness? So we cannot tolerate others' prosperity. But now you consider, when you love somebody, and if that person is being glorified, how do you feel? When you love someone and that person is being glorified, that person is recognized, that person is rewarded. Oh, my son became, he was the topper in the school, and he got the best prize, he got this, he got that. Do we become envious? Does the father become envious of the son? Why not? Because he loves him. Rather, he enjoys, he appreciates, he becomes elated when his dear one is being glorified. So similarly, when we develop that loving attitude and we see that other devotees are being glorified, then we'll become delighted. When other devotees are achieving something wonderful, we'll become ecstatic. And another thing that we should be very, very careful when we are dealing among ourselves, that we should not criticize anybody. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, the great devotees have one of the qualifications that is becoming wonderfully manifest about great devotees. They never criticize anybody. That is the quality of a great devotee. Time and time again, it's coming up in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Never criticizes anybody. Because he rather appreciates. And if he finds any fault, he says, okay, he has little fault. What about my faults? And that way another very good thing, very wonderful way to avoid this attitude, tendency, that you always have a tendency to criticize. Then our attitude should be, if I am such an expert critic, then let me criticize myself. Find all the faults in me. Instead of finding faults in others, let me find faults in me. And I am our storehouse of faults. And by doing that, what actually happens? If I try to find faults in me, then I am getting an opportunity to rectify myself of those faults. On the other hand, if we find faults with others, then what will happen? I will be awarded with those faults. So we should be very careful about not criticizing others, not finding faults in others. On the other hand, let's create a very nice atmosphere where everybody is welcome and we can greet everyone with all the respect and love of our hearts. And let us consider that we, the seniors, have a great obligation towards our junior. That we have to give them, we have to bring them up so that they become very good devotees in course of time. Because they are our future hopes. So anyway, these are the few things I wanted to say about as a short class on Vaishnav etiquette. If anybody has any question, please feel free to ask. Yes? Do we have... Okay, go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit about Vaishnav God?
Anyway, discuss about what I spoke about now. Because you are suggesting that we go into another area. Like whatever you have discussed, yeah. Do you have any question? Very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah. That prajalpa, prajalpa means Gramma Katha. Okay. Gramma Katha means discussing about mundane things. And that actually leads to criticism. Talking about unnecessary things. What's the point in talking about them? Like, let's talk about Krishna. Bhakti Vinod Thakur, in his Jaiva Dharma, the first thing he is describing about one devotee, that he never indulges in prajalpa. And he is pointing out that all the time he is just absorbed in Krishna consciousness. When you are absorbed in Krishna, then where is the room, where is the time for discussing about mundane things? Mundane things mean finding faults with others and deriving pleasure by broadcasting others' faults and defects. Okay. Yes?
How do you not get arrogant?
How do you not get? Arrogant. Okay, by being humble. Right? Okay. Arrogant is when I think I am very big. I am great. That is arrogance. And humble means just the opposite. I am small. I am smaller than a blade of grass. So that quality of being humble, like to begin with, to get rid of the tendency of arrogance, we have to become humble. And how do we become humble? By recognizing the greatness of others. When we see that the others are great, then in comparison to them, in relation to them, I become small. Right? So that is why the best way to get rid of the tendency of becoming arrogant is by appreciating others' greatness, recognizing how others are so great. And that is how we will be able to become small or humble. In that respect, there is one example that comes to my mind. You know King Akbar? Yeah, he was a great Mughal empire. And in his court, there was a minister called Birbal. He was famous for his intelligence and wit. So, other ministers were becoming envious that, oh, why Akbar is always so fond of Birbal, right? And so in order to teach them a lesson, one day Akbar came to the court and drew a line on the floor with a chalk. And then he asked, can anybody make this line that I have drawn shorter without rubbing it off? Everyone was dumbfounded. How can you make the line shorter without rubbing it off? Then when everyone failed, Akbar asked Birbal, Birbal, can you make this line shorter? Birbal said, fine. So he picked up the chalk and drew another line next to it, which was larger. So he said, now your line is shorter. So what actually happens, you see, we are coming from Krishna's superior energy, right? And the material nature is Krishna's inferior energy. So because we are constantly dealing with the inferior energy, then we develop this tendency of feeling that we are superior to everyone, right? And everything. And that's why this tendency to be arrogant or proud is natural in this material nature. But when we turn our vision towards the spiritual side, then we see greatness of Krishna, greatness of Krishna's devotees. And then in relation to that, we recognize our minuteness, smallness. As a matter of fact, Krishna is so great, and closer you come to Krishna, more you recognize your minute situation. So, spiritual life, more you make advancement, the more humble you become. So the way to get rid of this tendency is to recognize and appreciate other devotees' greatness.
Also, how do you not get angry?
How? Okay, the question is, how do you not become angry? Okay, let us see what causes anger. What causes anger? Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, Dhayate Vishayan Pungsha. Do you remember that verse? Dhayate Vishayan Pungsha Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sangjayate Kama Kamat Krodho Bhijayate. Anger is, in Sanskrit, Krodha. Krodh. So Krishna is saying that our tendency is that our consciousness flows towards the objects of the senses, Vishaya. And as a result of that, we develop association. Sangasteshu. We associate with the objects of the material nature, the objects of our sense gratification. And as a result of that, we develop a desire to enjoy them or exploit them. But when our tendency to enjoy becomes foiled, when we fail or our desire becomes unsuccessful, then anger develops. So anger develops due to our failure to enjoy this material nature. Now, as a devotee, do we want to enjoy this material nature? No. We want to, the way to get rid of the tendency to exploit the material nature is to become engaged in serving Krishna. So when we serve Krishna, then there is no room for anger. Rather, Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. When you are happy, can you be angry? But if at all there is anger, there is a need for anger also. Krodh bhakto dveshi jane. If you have anger, then use it towards those who are offensive to the devotees. Those who are harmful, those who are damaging the devotees. Like Hanuman is angry against Ravan. Arjuna is angry in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. But that anger is Krishna conscious anger. Anger is being used in serving Krishna. But in Kali Yuga we don't do that, because that will breed more anger. Violence will breed violence in the age of Kali. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, for enlightening us on the Vaishnava etiquette, especially when you told about how we should respect each other, respect the seniors, and express our love for each other. So, Maharaj, before I ask the question, I have a humble suggestion. There can be two ways you can handle a situation. It can be proactive or it can be reactive. I believe you are taking some class on Vaishnava etiquette, so I believe this may be a more proactive approach to avoid any conflict in the future. And since this was a short class, so maybe also you're part of the temple management and board, so maybe something ongoing will really help all of us to maintain the Vaishnava etiquettes.
At the beginning of the class I just mentioned, where are the devotees? So yes, if you all are interested, I'm sure I'll try to spend my time. But of course I can understand today is a working day, Thursday, so it was difficult. So probably we should have some class on a day when the devotees are more free.
So Maharaj, my question is that many times we see conflict or difference in opinion among the devotees when either of them are trying to control each other, actually. And what we said earlier is the devotee definition is that one who surrendered to Krishna, not try to be controller, proprietor, or enjoy. So how do you, when you're in a situation like that, when someone is trying to control, or so how you should behave actually, rather than behaving something not according to the Vaishnava etiquette? So how should we react to those situations?
You see, that's why we need a structure. The structure brings order, right? Now, it is necessary to have the structure, and that means somebody has to control, somebody has to manage. But let those personalities be recognized by the structure. Like we need a head. We need people in management. We need people to control. But there should not be any, conflict in that. Like rather our attitude should be like, if somebody is more efficient than I am, let him take that position. My business is to be a servant. We have come here to serve. We haven't come here to control. But sometimes I have to be in a position, somebody has to be in a position to control. So those who are good at it, let them take that position. But when you forget that our actual business is to serve, then only this kind of competition begins. Or why him? Again I'll go back to that point. Envy. Why him? Why not me? On the other hand, the devotee's attitude should be, well, there is a structure, he has been appointed, so let me be subordinate to him. And in that respect also, I mentioned about, respect towards the superiors. Now there are 5 considerations of superiority. One consideration of superiority, the primary consideration of superiority is spiritual advancement. Like Sukadev Goswami 16 years old, but everybody accepted him in that assembly, gave him the Vasasan. Why? Because they recognized that spiritually he's most exalted. Right? Then we have the consideration of time of initiation. Those who have been initiated before, those who have come to Krishna consciousness before, he is more advanced or he is superior. Right? Like, for example, and a classic example, Sanatana Goswami is senior to Rupa Goswami. But because Rupa Goswami came to Krishna consciousness before him, he recognized his superior position. See, among the brothers, the senior brother, the elder brother is accepting the superiority of the younger brother because he surrendered to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu before he did. So that's one consideration. The other consideration is Varnashram. The Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishya, Sudra, Sannyasi, Banaprasthi, Grihastha, Brahmachari. And the other consideration is the consideration of age. Those who are older, they're superior. And another consideration is position. Somebody may be younger in age, but if he is a temple president, we should accept him as the senior, superior. So these are the 5 considerations of superiority, seniority. So another thing is that in the Vaishnava community, we do not consider how to become senior. Our consideration should be how we can become junior, right? How can we offer more respect to others? All right? Thank you. So, yes?
Thank you, Maharaj, for the wonderful lecture. So, between anger and envy, it is easy to understand that what flavor of anger I am, so by getting into the how I am reacting, how the body is reacting. But envy is more subtle to understand that what level of envy I am. Is it I am improving, not improving? That's from the devotee point of view. And with interaction with the non-devotee, is hard to explain. If we talk to a non-devotee and say that we all have envy and that's the reason, and the proof is that we are here, they don't get it, right? So is there an objective way to analyze that we have envy and there are different level of envy within us?
Well, the first thing I would say, like when you are dealing with non-devotees, don't go into these intricacies, envy and things. They won't be able to understand that, Rather deal with them in a simple way, like in order to preach. And, when it comes to preaching in the level of, then you can point out, like about envy. Because generally people, do not want to recognize that. You see, the simple term for envy is actually pride. Right? It's pride that leads to envy. And the envy actually leads to violence. One is matsar and also himsa. That's also envy, which is actually leading to violence. When envy leads to violence, it is. And so the thing is that, okay, say for example, you may be a PhD. When you go to primary school, what do you teach them? Do you give them the PhD course? Or you come to their level and speak to them? So similarly, when we are dealing with outsiders, non-devotees, like we should like to leave it to the point, to the extent where they can understand, they can relate to that. Does it answer your question?
For us, let's say I want to analyze whether I have been practicing Krishna consciousness, have I improved bigger effect on that envy front? Is there an objective way to understand?
Yeah, then why did you bring the non-devotees?
Non-devotee I brought because non-devotee, they are practicing, we have been teaching them, they are coming to the platform, and when we are discussing the philosophy, the discussion came that when you analyze, I don't have any envy. So she said that I don't have any envy, and it was
To begin with, she doesn't know what envy is. You see, that's what I meant. She doesn't even, you can't expect them to kind of relate to what you are, from the level that you are actually talking about. Like envy means intolerance to others' prosperity. Like put it that way. Do you feel elated or do you feel dejected when you see that somebody else is prospering and getting recognition? Simple way. Do you? If you do, then yes, that's envy. When somebody gets promoted in your office, right? And you feel that it was unfair that they didn't do that to you. They didn't give that position to you. That's envy. And so often we actually encounter this kind of attitude in our hearts. And that's what we have to consider, how we can actually be free from that attitude, that tendency. Yes, Harivilas Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj. These are important questions. To understand the answer to your question, you have to understand the difference between jealousy and and envy.
Envy.
Jealousy means somebody has something you don't have. When you get the same thing, your jealousy goes away. Envy means somebody has something you don't have. But even if you get the same thing, you're still not satisfied. They have to lose what they have. Therefore, Ravana had hundreds, thousands of wives, but he had to take Sita away from Ram. You see, he was not happy that Ram had such a beautiful wife. He had to take her away to destroy Ram. So envy, when you come to the point of envy, you want to destroy another person's life. You're not happy until they're completely destroyed. Right? Jealousy can be mitigated. Envy cannot be mitigated. Therefore, in Krishna consciousness, a leader has to decide whether a person is simply arrogant or ignorant or jealous, or if they're actually envious. If they're envious, Prabhupada said, he uses the word, it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Maharaj can confirm it or correct me, it's called himsa.